PLC logic and bit shift instructions, chapter 13. So what is an addressing mode? That's a very important concept in PLC. So every PLC has some addressing modes that's available to the user, which really gives us a lot of flexibility on what we can do. So what is an addressing mode? Somebody in class knows?
It's different.
Operating. So an addressing mode is the method that an instruction is used to address its operands. And of course, we looked at a couple, determines how an instruction addresses its operands. We know what immediate is the actual constant operand is specified within the instruction itself. So we use that one a lot. Direct addressing, this is a specified register data file, addresses that contains the variable operand, like so N17. So inside the integer data files, address number 17 would contain the operand. Everybody okay there? Then we got one that we haven't used, which is really powerful. This is called indirect address. Here we specify a register. So this is within N7. And then this location contains the address of the operand. Makes sense? This is indirect. So we're getting the address of the operand indirectly from a register. Then we're going to use a new one in this chapter that's called index addressing. This is extremely powerful addressing mode. The address of the operand is specified by the contents of the index register, which is S24. We have access to that, so we can put anything there when we want to. Plus an offset. So we specify index addressing by the hashtag N73. So what this is going to take the contents of the index register and add what to it? 3. So the address would be whatever's in the index register, N7 plus 3. You understand what I'm saying? So let's say we're looking at this in this instruction right here. And my index register, which would be S24, let's say it has 32 in it. How did it get in there? Well, it could have got in there. You can load that register with anything you want to, right? So somehow I got 32 into the index register, and then I encountered this instruction right here. So what would the address of the operand be? The address of the operand would be N7 colon 35. So what we do is we take this is the offset, we add it to whatever that is, and then that becomes the address of the operand. So we have what we call an offset, and we specify an offset. Right, you understand? Your offset can be anything. I could come up here and I could say N715. That would be my addressing mode. And then if this is what's in S24, then my address is going to be N7 47. It depends on what the offset is. You can add any offset to the index register you want to, and that's what specifies the address of the operand. Well, it depends on what you're dealing with. If it's like a source A or a source B, then it would be the operand. If it was the destination, it would be where I'm going to store it at, right? You understand? So I can use indexed address in either source A, source B, for instructions that have a source A and source B and a destination. I can use indexed addressing on any of those. But every one, and I could use different offsets. Now, what's nice about the index register is it does a lot of things for us automatically. So there's some instructions we have to use index addressing. You have no other option but to use index addressing. These are in your shift instructions that we're going to get to in a little while. That uses index addressing. So what it does, it automatically does things for us, which we'll see, which is really cool. But you got to be able to do something. You got to be able to take a constant and then index it. And then if I can go and automatically index it every time, then I can automatically go through tables. So we use index addressing through tables. And all we do is we just increase the offset by 1 every time. And then it will automatically do what? It would automatically go through the table for us. If we decrement it, or decrement it means by decrease by 1, right? Increment means increase it by 1. If I decremented my offset, then every time it would do what? It would come back through there backwards. So we have the ability to do that. So some of our instructions automatically increment the index register for us. So what we can do is we can specify a starting address, and then the instructions take care of themselves. It'll become apparent when we look at the bit shifts. So our shift instructions, our shifts and our rotate instructions, where we automatically move stuff around, automatically use this stuff. So you have to use index addressing. So the objects, we'll look at that when we get into bit shift left and bit shift right. So these are the instructions that are available. These are our logic instructions. So I know I can use contacts in series, and I can use contacts in parallel, and I can do ands, and I can do ors, and I can do nots, right? You understand that? What these instructions work on is they work on words, an entire 16-bit word. So what I can do with these instructions is I can AND two 16-bit words, I can OR two 16-bit words, I can exclusive OR two 16-bit words, and then I can NOT. So I can NOT a 16-bit word. So a NOT doesn't have 2 operands, right? A NOT's got 1 operand. And these are the instructions that we have available. But you have to understand is that I can combine a NOT with an and get a what? A NAND. I can combine a NOT with an OR and get a what? A NOR, and I can combine a NOT with an exclusive OR and get an exclusive NOR. So we don't have to have those instructions if I can just come up and just take what I have and then invert it or complement. So these are the 4 basic instructions we have available to us. Cascade the NOT instruction to an AND, we end up with to the AND or exclusive OR, we can get an AND or an exclusive OR. And we'll create a ladder diagram using these bits. Shift left, shift right. Let's look at those. So what do you think we mean by shift left? Everybody's played football, does shifts. Well, shift left means we'll take a 16-bit word, and if we shift it left, everything in the 16-bit word will move one spot for every shift, right? You understand? If I shift right, then everything in the 16-bit word is going to do what? You shift to the right. Open a file, and we'll look at how we can monitor these registers. I think some of y'all have already figured that out. Reset bit shift or bit shift right instruction to its starting position. We'll look at that. But first of all, we'll look at the Allen Bradley RS500, and this is common for all your programming languages. If we looked at the Siemens PLC, we noticed that these are the 4 basic logic instructions that they support. And every PLC that I've worked with has supported these 4 basic logic. right? That makes sense. Not, and, or any exclusive. Are we okay so far? So these are some examples of a not. Well, a not has how many operands? One. And it is a 16-bit word, guys. So these instructions deal with deals with words. So here they're taking two registers. So they're taking D3 and D2. First not will be taking whatever's in D0 and not it with whatever's in D1. And can you see what happened? So everything that was a 0 becomes a 1, and everything that was a 1 became a 0, right? Everybody understand that? Yes or no? Now when I add them, and you got the binary is cute, but normally we don't deal with binary a lot because that's 16 bits. So normally we deal with hex, and this is why you got to understand hex. So what we're doing, if I was to take that number, which is AAAA, and if I did that in binary, this would be an A, right? A, and we're ANDing it with FF. So what's this going to do? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at one bit at a time. So what we would do is we would come over here, and if this was our AND gate, what we're going to do is we're going to AND these two bits right here, and then this is going to be my result. So what's one AND with a 0? 0. What's one AND with a 1? 1. One AND with a 0. One AND with a 1. So it's going to come up here, and here we have the same thing. What are we going to do here? So what we do with an AND bit is we use it to make bits zeros. That's what we do. We can strip off bits that we're not interested in, right? So if I don't want a bit to come through, I'll AND it with a 0. If I want a bit to come through, I'll AND it with a what? A 1. Y'all understand that? So what we do with an AND, we call these masks, by the way, because that's what we're doing. We're masking things off. We're covering things up. So I can strip off bits. If I don't want them there, if I'm not interested in them, if I'm trying to get rid of them for some reason, if I don't want them, if I want them to be zeros, I'll use an AND mask, and I'll come up with a mask to strip off the bits I'm not interested in. Right? Y'all understand that? Yes or no? So what are we going to do with an OR? ORs and ANDs are just opposite. So what we're going to do with an OR is we're going to set bits. If I need a bit set, then I'm going to set it with an OR. So we use ANDs to clear bits, right? You understand that. We use ORs to do what? Set bits in a 16-bit word. So here they're using 5555. So 5, 5, 5, 5. And we're ANDing it with FF00. F, 0, 0. So this is going to come through unaffected. This is going to come through unaffected. This is going to come through unaffected. This is going to come through. This is going to come through. Oops. This is going to come through. This is going to come through. This is going to come through. And what are these going to be? No matter what they are, they'll come through as ones. So we use an OR mask to set bits. I can set any bit within a 16-bit word that I want to, just by coming up with a mask. I can set a single bit, I can set multiple bits, I can do anything I want to, right? Y'all understand that? So what do we use AND masks for? Strip or make them zeros, right? And what do we do with ORs? We make them ones. And then we got an exclusive OR. Now what's an exclusive OR going to do? So this would be an exclusive OR, right? This would be the symbol for an exclusive OR. And the symbol, what does the symbol show? This shows us what we get if they are not equal. So if they're not equal, we get a 1. If they are equal, we'll get a what? A 0. Everybody understand that? So here they got a weird number. CE3C. Okay, so CE3C. I get that right? And then we're exclusive ORing it with 6. Oops. Right here's the mass right here, source B. So 6 E F 2. Right? 6
And what are you doing with the numbers? Is that addition in that's early on in the book when you're adding the ones with the numbers?
No, we're not adding.
Not adding, but how are you getting the third number?
What third number?
I'm sorry. When you strip, like, use the hand, for example.
Okay, this is the destination.
Would you call it the destination?
Yeah, this is the answer. Okay, so here's what they gave us right here. FF55, right? Here is source A, here is source B, and that's what the results of ANDing them would be. Or
I don't remember how to use the results. Well, I do know text, and I know source A is supposed to get.
we look at it a group of bits at a time. So what I'm doing is I'm ANDing these 2 bits right here. So what's a 1 AND with a 0? 0. Right? Understand? So to get a 1 out of an AND, so that would be this circuit right here. And what we'll do is we'll say that would be 2 inputs. And what we're doing here is we're dealing with 2 inputs. We're not dealing with 4, 5, 6. Okay. So here, to close this, I would say that would be a 1, that would be a 1, and that would be a 1, right? You understand? If I come over and said this would be a 1 and that would be a 0, then that there would be a 0. Well, that's exactly what we're doing over here. So here I'm saying this is a 0 and this is a what? A 1. Well, what would be the results of this? The results of that would be a 0. Okay. Now right here, this would be a 1 and a 1 would give me a what? A 1, yeah. And this would give me a 0 and a 1. That would give me a 0. And now when I get up here, my mask, and this is why we call it a mask, my mask is 0. If my mask is 0, I don't care what A is, it's going to be what? It's going to be 0 for that section of the word that I'm in.
And when you say mask, when I was studying for the test, your lectures for chapter 12 and 11, I don't think, are online, and there wasn't much material about the masking. So
well, the mask we haven't there.
Talk briefly about that.
Yeah, we haven't used that yet, or mask is to cover. Yeah, we have the move with mask instruction that we talked about. So we use this so often in the move with mask. I think it's MVM. This right here uses an AND mask. And an AND mask means we're using AND mask to do what? What do we use AND mask for? Huh? Or to make them zeros.
Okay.
You say strip off bits. We're using OR mask to strip off bits too, but here, the bits that we're stripping off are going to be ones.
Is there more about this that we're about to get into then? About masking at all, or no?
Well, masking is a term that I learned how to do it, because this is what, when we started dealing with with microprocessors, that's what they call this operation. They call it a mask, and you can understand how it got that name. Because what we're doing is we're getting rid of bits we don't want. Huh? Because it's an OR. So this would be this guy right here. If I was to do this with relays. Now in relays we can have more than two. On ands and ors we're doing two bits at a time. And what I'm doing is this right here. If I came over here and I close this contact and I open that contact, what would I get out of it? Well, I'd get a 1. Okay, and that's that guy right there. So I've closed this contact, I've opened that contact, I get a what? A 1. I come over here, both these contacts are open, I get a 0. Here I would get a, I messed up. Here I'd get a what?
That should be a 1.
Yeah, that should be a 1. That's okay. That should be a 1, right? This would be a what? A 0. This would be a 1. This would be a 0. This would be a 1. This would be a 0. Now what about these? Well, my mask, all the bits in my mask are 1s. That means I don't care what A is. B, if B's got 1s up there, then that part of my answer is going to be what? It's going to be 1s. So we use OR mask to set bits that we want to. We use AND mask to clear bits. Yeah, a lot of times, and what people don't understand is we can input 1 bit at a time, or we can input a whole dang input port. I mean, we could input the whole thing I wanted to, right? And then instead of me going out there and saying, okay, I'm gonna input here, I'm gonna input there, I'm gonna input here, I can input a whole word. Y'all understand that? So if we come up here and do this, so we can address a complete port. So mine is set up a little different. Maybe this will work. Oops. So what I've got here, I've started mine off a little different. I can't make this any bigger on Logic Pro. But what I've done up here is I'm saying, okay, input, what's my source? What's my source? Can y'all see that?
It's like E1, but
No, it's not E. It's N colon 2.0. This is the way you would have to enter it. This is the way you would have to enter it in Allen Bradley. And Logic Pro is a little different. So what I'm doing is I'm going out to input 2, and I'm pulling that whole wording at one whack. And then my next instruction is input 3.0. So this is going to input the what? From the third input port, it's going to input all 16 bits. So what happens when I download this, and I'm going to bring up my simulation. Oops, simulation bridge. Okay, so what happens when I'm going to come over here and just flip some numbers into this port over here. Oh, I got to put it in run. And look what's happening over here. So I'm coming over here just flopping in numbers, and this move instruction is taking this as a binary number. Y'all see that? And this is what people don't understand. So let's go ahead and set it back to 0. Oh, I got an 8. This got closed. So right now, this is 0, this is 0. But what I'm doing is I'm taking the contents of an entire input port, instead of dealing with one bit at a time, I'm taking the contents of an entire input port and bringing it into my computer. And we can do this with Allen-Bradley's, we can do it with Siemens. The only difference with Siemens is Siemens works with groups of 8s. Allen-Bradley works with words. Siemens PLCs works with bytes. So I have to tell Siemens to input a word. So we have a way we can tell it to input a word. But if I just put an input port on the Siemens PLCs, then it's going to go out there and bring in a what? 8 bits. So Siemens PLCs works with bytes. Allen-Bradley's PLCs work with words. But I can input directly from an input port to my, and I can output a word to an output port. If I output a word to an output port, then that output port is going to respond to that word, not to an individual bit, right? You understand that? Which is so neat, and we'll see that in a minute when I'm doing my shift left and my shift right. So what I'm doing here is I'm coming up here. And by the way, this is doing in decimal. So right now I'm moving zeros into that, and I'm taking the contents of word 3, which is this guy right here, right? You understand? And I'm not. What does it say it is? Because it's a -1. Yeah, which is what that is using that stuff we call two's complement, which is strange. So what it's doing is taking all ones and it's coming up with FFFF, and it's saying that's a -1, which is true. So that's a -1. If I come up here and close this switch right here, if I come up here and close all of them, it should come up and give me a 0. And it does. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this most significant bit set. So now it's going to assume it's a positive number. And so it says this is, oops, we need to leave that clear. So that's a 0. Okay. No, it's supposed to be a positive number. Why is it saying 13,768? Oh, it's the opposite. So this right here should be a 0. I have to think about that. It looks like something's not right because we can't represent a -65,536, which is what mine says. What's the biggest number we can represent for the word? The biggest negative number we can represent for the word? 2,765, right? So something's going wrong with Logic Pro right here. And Logic Pro is not good all the time. So let's just ignore the not right now. So let's add them together. I had to put it in switches. So what are we going to add? What we did a while ago, so I'll come up here and take this. Just put some numbers up here. Okay, so this is, we're adding it with what? Like 0F. And then whatever I put up here should be ignored. So notice my output, my destination is saying what? Can y'all see that? 85. Okay. And I can come up here and do these bits right here. And they're just what? They're just ignored. Why? Because I'm masking them off. So here's my mask over here. So here I've got all ones, here I've got all zeros. So what it's doing is the AND is ignoring everything above what? Bit 7. See that? Yes or no? Yeah, so notice my output does not what? Does not change, even though I'm coming up here flipping these what? These switches. Now down here on the OR mask, it's got 43,551. And this is my OR mask. I'm going to start flipping these down here from 0 to 7. And the output, the destination shouldn't be changing. Is it? Okay. Now, as soon as I start flipping these above 7, then the output changes. So what we're doing is we're telling our program, we're telling it to ignore the what? The most significant bit. I'm sorry, here the least significant byte. We're telling it just ignore it. So if I need to set a bit, no matter what it is, I can come up here. Let's just take our mask back, and we want to make sure a bit is always set. Which bit y'all want to always set for the OR? Let's say we want to set bit 6. Well, set bit. Okay, so this went to something here. This is going to be hard to see. Let's take off all these other ones. Okay, so this is bit 6. And I'm flipping bit 6, and notice the OR does not what? It does not change. Doesn't change at all. Everything up under 6, everything above 6 will cause it to change. Everything below 6 would cause it to change. But what I've done is I've told it to ignore 6. Now look at the AND. So the AND, I'm telling it to see 6, but I'm telling it to ignore everybody else but 6. So look at the AND. So right now the AND's giving me zeros, no matter what I'm doing here.
So when you're masking something, using that, you're essentially telling the destination to ignore anything
that we don't mask off. But the OR mask would make sure the bits are set. The AND mask would make sure the bits are clear. So if I was going to input information from this guy over here, okay, let's say, but all I wanted was these bits right here. All I wanted was these lower bits of this byte down there. That's all I wanted. Well, the problem is I could go out there and I could input each one of these bits individually and I could save them. Well, I couldn't even save them. I'd have to shift them and all kind of stuff, right? You understand? I'm trying to get information from this input up here, but all I want is an 8 bits. Well, the problem is if I input from this guy right here, then I got to get rid of what? I've got to get rid of the bits that I'm not interested in. So let's say I want to take this number and I want to send it to an output port. Well, okay, so what input is this? So this is input 6. So let's come up here and bring in input 6 on one of these guys up here. So let's go to program. So this is input colon 6.0. That's the way you're supposed to address it, even though Logic Pro. Now I'm bringing information in from this guy right here. So I'll come up here and click. Oops. That's the output. That's not the input. Here's the input right here. Input 5. Right? Input 5. So that's an output. So that'd be input colon 5.0. So now when I come over and flip these switches, okay, so let's download it and run it. Okay. Now this is not binary. This is BCD. But what am I getting in there from here now? 5, right? And that's what I have. What? That's what I have over here. But the problem is, if I load in a 16-bit word and I don't need these up here, then what do I need to do? Well, I need to strip those off. Right, now what do we want? Do we want them to be a 0 or do we want to be a 1? So right now, if I come up here and change this, see, it's changing what? It's changing over here. Now this isn't translating as binary, guys. Even though this is BCD, if I'm inputting from an input port, it will see it as binary, no matter what it is. And we'll show y'all later on how we can convert that over to true BCD. Well, what I want to do is I want to get rid of these guys up here. So I would come over here and I would come up with a mask. Okay, so let's say we want to strip them off with an and. Then I would come over here and I would make all those like that. Okay, I'm sorry. With the and. Then I'm going to come up here and close these. So I would use 0, 0, FF as my mask. Now when I come over here, and of course, now when I come up here and change these, and what we're doing is we're looking at the and mask. We're not looking at the information coming in. I'm going to come up here and change these, and what does it do? So if I change these, notice the and changes, right? If I come up here, my destination, we need to look at our destination. If I come over here and change these, then the destination changes, right? You understand? Okay. But if I come up here and change these, then what happens? Nothing, because I've stripped them off, right? You understand? And also on my OR mask, but look, the OR mask is a lot bigger number. So what I'm doing on the OR mask is I'm letting the top ones come through and I'm ignoring the bottom ones. So see, even though this is changing, the number's not changing. But what the OR mask does is the bits that I'm not interested in will always come through as ones, right? On the AND mask, the bits that I want to get rid of will always come through on zeros. That makes sense? So we come this all the time, but what it does, it allows me to bring a complete input port in and then strip off what I'm not interested in. And so instead of me going out there on every one of those bits and putting a rung and putting an input instruction out there, right, to understand, I can go in and bring in a whole input port and strip off the bits that I'm not interested in. If I need the bits I'm not interested in to be ones, I'll use an OR mask. If I want the bits that I'm not interested in to be zeros, I'll use an AND mask. And what am I going to use exclusive ORs for? I'm going to use exclusive ORs to tell if the two inputs are equal, the two guys are equal to each other. Yeah, that's what exclusive ORs looks for equality. It looks for equality. That's what it does. Right? You understand? An exclusive OR is going to give me a 0 if they're equal. An exclusive NOR is going to give me a 1 if they're equal, right? You understand that? So I can come over here now. Let's change this back because that's BCD. It'll be too hard to deal with. And we'll bring this back in from input 1 dot 0, right? So if you want to address a whole word, you put a dot, right? You understand? If you want to address a bit, you put a what? Slash. Guess what? For Siemens PLCs, it's just awesome. So on Siemens PLCs, I'll use a dot if I need a bit. And no, we don't put a slash for a word. We specify a word in the instruction. So if I came up here on Siemens PLCs, and I said and I said 0.1, and that would be bit 1. If I want to input a byte, I would use IP 0, that would input a whole byte. If I wanted to input a word, I'd use NW0 and then input words. So we don't need to specify. So if you don't specify a byte, or if you don't specify a word, or if you don't specify a double word, it assumes that it's a bit. And so unfortunately, Alan Bradley uses a dot to give a word, and Siemens uses a what? A dot to specify a bit number. So, and believe me, that gives me problems. So here we're going to come up here on our exclusive OR, which is down here at the bottom. And see, did I upload it? Go to run. And I'm going to put over here, so here's exclusive OR. And right now, they're not equal. So right now, they're equals. Oops, they're still not equal. Yeah, it's got to be close. And it's close. So an exclusive OR, if I get a 0 out of an exclusive OR, what does that tell me? No, it don't tell me something's not right.
Did you say it was looking for them to be equal? Oh, well,
Oh, it tells me that they're exactly equal. So I can come up right here and I can put 1 on there. Now it comes up in, let's see. Okay. So I could come up here now and say this and this. Okay. Okay. So what does that mean?
It's still 0 because you masked.
No, we're not masking. We don't use exclusive ORs to mask. We use exclusive ORs to look at equality. So what we do on the exclusive OR, so right now I'd have, oops, I can't draw on this one. This is not a PowerPoint. So what do we got? We got this right here. Oops. So on mine, what I have is I have this, I have this. Need to go back and look. Oh, that bit right there said. Oops, sorry. I got this a 1, and then I come up here, then I got 3 zeros right here, and then I got the rest of them as 0. And then on my other one, I've got this. Right? And we're doing a what? An exclusive OR. Oops, exclusive OR. So this tells us what we get when it's what? When they're not equal, right? Okay. So these are equal, so what would we get? Zero. This is equal, or we get a what? This is equal, we get a what? 0, 0. What do we get here? You get a 0.
Had there been a 1 there, it would have shown that
What do you mean?
no.
Oh, you mean right here? If I'd have came over here and did this, then this one right here would have been a 1. Well, what we usually do with exclusive ORs we'll come back and we use one of our flags on our status register. We have flags, and y'all know what a flag is, right? We call them, what's a flag? Well, status, inside the status register, we have individual little bits. And each one of those little bits are sitting there looking at the results. And then they'll set, they'll go to a 1 if what they see or what they check for is true. And what they check, if it's false, then it would give us a 0. So we have an overflow flag that we use in our signed math instruction. That if you ever change the sign of your answer, it gives us an indication. So if it expects a positive answer, an answer comes up and gives you negative, it sets what we call the overflow flag, right? Now we have a sign flag that we can use. If it sees a negative number, it'll set to a 1. If it sees a positive number, it'll set to a 0. That doesn't cause an overflow. We have a 0 flag. What does a 0 flag do? So if I said 5 minus 5, then it would come up in what? It would tell me a 0. So we usually use that flag with these exclusive OR instructions. So what I would do is I would say, okay, I'm on exclusive OR these two numbers. If I come up and get 0, it means the two numbers were what? Equal. If it doesn't come up and give me a 0, it would tell me the two numbers are what? They're not equal. And that's what we use exclusive ORs for. What we do exclusive ORs and exclusive NORs is we use them to check for equality. We compare things. These are our true compare instructions. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, exclusive NOR will give us a 1 if they're equal. And exclusive OR would give us a 0 if they're equal. So we probably need to put this into the Allen Bradley PLC, because you can see this guy right here's got a problem too. Because right now they're equal, and this guy is showing me what? Showing me a 16, yeah. Which would this bit right here would be. I am getting that right? So an exclusive OR has a high active output. Looks like he's got it backwards. This is an exclusive OR, which means we should get a 1 if they're not equal. And if they're equal, we get what? It looks like the guy's got it backwards because it's giving us a 1. Let's see, let's come up here and flip one of these other switches. Yeah. Looks like when he wrote the program, he got it what? Yeah, it looks backwards to me. Well, what it's doing, right now they're equal. This is equal. They're equal. And this was an exclusive OR. An exclusive OR gives us a 1 if they're not equal, and gives us a 0 if they're equal. So they give you opposite of what we say. So exclusive OR would give you a 0 if they're equal. Exclusive NOR would give you a 1 if they're equal. Make sense? Okay. So he's doing the exclusive NOR. So notice what he's done right here. So I can come over here and flip all these other switches, and nothing happens, right? See that? Now how could I take care of this? We could not it right. Do I understand that? Well, no, we can knock this destination address right here. Yeah, so he's got it backwards. And, is that right? We'd have to do something a little different because on the next scan it would do the same problem. We would not this, so we'd have to put it in a different address. Understand? Oops. Oops. So I would take that. I'd take the output of the exclusive OR, right, which is B3:5. And I would knot it and put it in B3:6. I'm not using that one. So we'll make these bits right here equal. B3:6. No, I think it'll work either. Because this is given us the exclusive and the problem is it's given to us and it's given this to us in signed numbers. That's the problem. The registers on the Logic Pro is right here. And then we can come up and do what? Decide which registers we want to look at. So these are the B registers right here, the B3 registers on this one. And here's B5, which is this guy right here. And then this is B6, which is this guy right here. And when we knot it, we're still taking everything that was a 0 and making it a what? A 1. And everything that was 1, we're making it 0. So that won't work either. So on the exclusive NOR, this guy right here. And then if they're not equal, we should get what? 0. Not equal, we get a 0. If they're equal, we get a 1. So since he so here, if they're equal, we get a 0. If they're not equal, we get a 1, right? And since he's got both of them backwards, then this is not going to work either. Because notice when we complement it or invert it with a not, then we just end up with changing everything else around. When this right here should have gave us a what? It should have gave us a 0.
And then if I complement it, I should get all ones if they're equal. Understand? So this is not giving us an exclusive. This is not giving us an exclusive NOR. An exclusive NOR, all these would be ones, right? You understand?
So the problem is where, or
The problem is right here. He's got this guy here wrong. So I can't even complement it because it's wrong to complement. It's not giving me an exclusive OR to complement and get an exclusive NOR. Because the complement of all ones would be FFFF, right? Right. But since he's got this right here at a 0, the complement or the invert is not going to work.
So we'll look at this. I'll actually go back and double check this with a true PLC. I don't have anything set up right now. But supposedly, if everything's equal on the exclusive OR, no matter what the number is, we should get a watt out of it. Exclusive OR. We should get a 0, right? If they're not equal, then we'll get a 1 somewhere down the line. Then we can check that Z flag or the 0 flag and tell if the two are what, equal or not equal.
Sorry guys, I didn't mean. And the guy's very impressive. I've done some programming around Visual Basic myself, and I don't know how he does what he does, to tell you the truth. So it's very, very impressive, but you got to understand things still go wrong every once in a while. Well, that's the logic. Anybody got any questions on logic? Except for exclusive OR. Huh? So what's our logic? We got what? Christine's good. So what do we do with an AIM? Or make sure certain bits in a word are set to a 0. What do we do with an exclusive OR? What do we do with an OR? Yeah. We use that to set bits in a 16-bit word, right? What do we do with an exclusive OR? We compare. Two 16-bit words are equal. Now the problem with our exclusive ORs and exclusive NORs, when we use context, we can only use 2. And if I wanted to compare 16 bits, it would take 16 runs, right? You understand? But using the exclusive OR and exclusive NOR instructions, I can check and complete words to see if they're equal, right? You understand? And where those words come from? Well, those words can come from. So, what's the requirement for source A? By the way, this is source A. You did a little problem there too. So, what's the requirements for source A and source B? Where can these operands come from? What type of addressing modes can we use? You can't use immediate for both of them. If I was going to use immediate for both of them, then I wouldn't do an instruction, right? Because that would always be true. So if I was going to use immediate for both of them, I would just come up with the answer and I'd put it on there. So both of them cannot use immediate address. We could use indexed addressing. We could use indirect, and we could use direct. So we could use all 3 of those addressing modes. Or 4, but you can't use immediate for what? For both of them. So here they're using immediate. No, they're not using immediate either. They're using, so what addressing modes are they using in the example?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What addressing modes are they using in our example? Direct, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Are we okay? Here's the flag.
So we have a carry flag. What do we use the carry flag for? Well, S20, S21. The S2 register is really cool.
And we can look at the S2 register. It don't show up on Logic Pro as good as it does on Allen Bradley. So in next class, what we'll do is I'll do this on an Allen Bradley PLC instead of using the simulation. But one of the things that we can use inside our S register. So here's S2. Are we running? No, here we go, it's running.
Look at S24. What's it do? What does this count? Huh? Because that's all it is, a free running clock. That's all it is. So it's just using the clock in the processor. And if you looked in the data book, it would tell you what time you get for each one of these bits. So back in Intro to PLC, we looked at using using timers to create a waveform right here. We don't have to use that, guys. We can use this register right here. Depending on how much time.
What is the carry overflow with?
The carry, the overflow. This should be in the book in this chapter. The carry, the overflow, and the zero. We call it the Z flag. The sign. So what was the overflow do? The overflow will set or clear. It would set if I exceed my signed numbers. Right, you understand? So one of our in registers, our integer registers, it would set if I try to get greater than a what? 32,765, or if I tried to get greater than a minus 32,765.
Continue just become an unsigned number.
Well, it changes signs on us, but it sets an overflow flag telling you that the sign of the number that you're seeing is not the correct sign. So if I got up to minus 32,768, and I want one more signed number, it's going to go 32,760. It's going to go positive 32,765. Well, what's the problem with that? We lost our sign. So that would be an indication. Now, if I'm using long words, now remember the 1100 and every PLC after that has an L register, which is a double word, which is 32 bits, which gets us up to like 2 billion on our signed number. And if you overflow that, it would come up and give you what? This would tell us if our answer ever came up to be what? 0. And we could use this on subtraction. So if I subtract two numbers and I come up and get 0, what does it tell me? If I subtract two numbers and I get 0, what does it tell me? They're equal. Yeah. So we can use that we can use subtract to kind of compare the two. This would tell me if the result is 0. This would be a carry. This would be a overflow. These are the registers that we just showed you. Now in the actual PLC, these show up as basically the same. Okay, this is not the way they show up in Logic Pro. But you can go over there and select on any register over in the right hand corner. Over in the project tree. And this is also true on the Allen Bradley PLCs. You can go to any one of over here on the project tree. Okay, you can go to any one of these registers, just double click on it and it'll bring up your register. And then you have the ability to go to any register you want to. So it don't make any difference which one of these registers you pick or these data files you pick on, right? You understand? Then it will come up and you can select the other ones. That makes sense? And this is also true in the actual PLC.
We can use that, S4, by the way, by the way, your status register, even though it's the S2 register, you know, your output register is data file 0. Your input, register is data file 1, right? You understand that? I'm sorry, register 1. Your S register is register 2. Your S register, your inputs are always inputs. Your outputs are always outputs. So instead of me addressing them like this, instead of saying N0, 2/1, this right here is what? Part of 0. So that's actually inputs. But you don't have multiple input registers, so this right here is understood, so we can just do what? We can just leave it off. Your outputs are correctly output out 1, right? And then we come, but this is understood because we only have one set of outputs. We only have one status register, so since status register is S2, something, then we can do what? We can eliminate the S2. Now we can on the B3 because we can have a B3, we can have a B10, and on some of your PLCs, anything above, you could have almost anything, right? You understand? We can have multiple timers. T4 is by default, but we can also have if we're not using B10, we could use what? A T10, right? You understand that? We can do that with most of our PLCs. So anything above S, you have to specify the what? The number. Somebody brought that up on the last test. I said, how many counters we could have? Well, a lot of y'all chose infinity, which is wrong. But you probably never chose this test. I said C5. How many C5 counters we can have? We can have 256 days. I did correct that. But it wasn't infinite. It wasn't infinite. So some of y'all last time said we could have infinite counters. We couldn't. So if I wanted to address any of these bits in the status register, I don't have to put S2. I could call, if I wanted to address this free running clock, I could say S:4/8. And then I would be addressing what? I'd be addressing what's going on in this bit right here. So that's the way. Everybody okay on the registers? How you address the registers? Like I said, you can go over here on your project tree and you could just double click on any of them. It'll bring up the file. But right down here, you got what? You got which register you want to actually get into and look at. So here's my C registers. Here's my control registers. In your binary, here, you can look at them as decimal, or you can look at them in what? Binary, or you can look at them in octal, or you can look at them in hex, or BCD, which you can see he's got problems with that too. Hex BCD. I don't know what he's talking about. Are we okay? The shift instruction, the PLC shift instructions, often used to control display signs in a plant or outside, flashing arrows. We can use these to sequence start motors. A lot of times in industry, instead of turning all our motors on at the same time, we do we sequence start them. Why is that? Yeah, we call that the starting current. Every one of these motors, if you look at the nameplate, it gives you the full load current, which means if you got a 5 horsepower motor and you look on there and it says it's going to draw 10 amps, that's 10 amps if it's running at 5 horsepower. If you're running at 4 horsepower, is it going to draw more or less? It's going to draw less, right? You understand? But if you try to run it at 7 horsepower, you're going to burn it up. So we can use these as sequence start motors. We can set up flashing signs. We can do all kinds of neat little stuff with these shift instructions. The operands address is located at the contents of the index register S224 plus a specific offset. So your shift instructions use index address. That's the only ones available to you.
your shift instructions require the use of index address. Index addressing is specified as an instruction. You proceed it with a what? A hashtag. So what would be our address here? I don't know, unless I know the contents of the law. Now, S224, that's the index register. So what we're going to do is we're going to take whatever this number is, we're going to add it to whatever's in that register right there, and then that'll be the address of the output. Make sense? So
Remember,
before
you
I use this thing, I'm gonna either, what do you think the index register comes up by default? Let's look at S24. In Logic Pro. Oops, how am I gonna get to it? Oops, where's Logic Pro at? Right. Oh, where am I past that thing? Right here. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. This is it. So how would I get to the status? I come up here and I could double click on that, right? You understand? And we'll come up here and we can look at binary. And I'm gonna go down to S24. So this is the index register. So it's gonna take a default. If you don't tell it anything different, it's gonna take a default, right? What do you think the default is? What do you think the default is? 0. You can't say, if you use index address and S24 is where it's at, what I wanted to know, what would you think the default contents of S24 are? So here we're going to offset from 0. So right now, if I use 53, the address would be 53. Okay, does that make sense? But I can load S24 with anything I want to. So if I don't want to use this the default, then I'm gonna have to remember to do what? Load it with what I want. Everybody okay? And usually when we deal with the shift instructions, we just leave it alone, even though we can play around with that. Example, B3:53 indicates index addresses. B3 is the data file, 53 is the offset. So what we have to know? If the index register is set to 234, in this example, the operator's address will be B3 what? 287. Y'all understand? Yes or no? So I take this guy here, I add it to there's the offset, and then that would give me the actual operand within the data file that I specified. Index addressing is primarily used to scan through tables. When a bit shift left or bit shift right instruction is used, index addressing allows shifts of more than 16 bits because the processor can automatically increment the what for the index register to point to the next word. So we do have some instructions that automatically increments the index register. If it increments the index register, then I can use the same offset and it'll automatically go over, right? Everybody understand that? So this guy right here, let's go. When energized, shift a bit to the left for every rung false to true transition. Control register 6 must be used to hold the status flags. So here, we're not going to use the status register. We only have so many bits in the status register. So R6, a lot of these instructions use an R6 register instead of the actual status register. Everybody okay there? Information about the bit shift instruction is kept in a designated control register. So you have to specify the control register you're going to use. And how many control registers can we have inside R6? 256. Yeah, so all these registers, 256. By default, we get R6. So if you loaded up a project tree, you'd get R6. But most of your PLCs allows you to use other numbers, right, that are not assigned. The 1100 does that. The file, the location of the first array. So y'all understand what's an array? Or a table. What's a table? And that's what we call arrays. Computers, we call them arrays. Most of the time you refer to this as table. What's a table?
Or a file.
We're not talking about something you eat off of, right? So what do you do in a table?
Store them.
Yeah, you store them and they're consecutive. That's an array. So the difference between an array and a table is technically an array has rows and columns. A table would just have rows. Okay, addressing bit addresses, the bit address of the shift in registers, R6 registers used to hold the link. Right? And what can the link be?
Uh,
2048, right? It could be 211, right? Or 211, 2048. And this is the control register. This is not in your book, but this is right out of the data book for the 1100. We're going to start using that because when you go out and get, so this book teaches the Watt PLC. Adam Bradley. No, it teaches every PLC that we can program with the RS Logix 500. And I think this goes all, even the 1500s. So the 1500s that we've got over on the manufacturing line in the Festo, we can program with RS Logix 500. Now the number of instructions you get, so when you look at the RS Logix 500 instruction set, that's all the PLCs. Now what you have to do is if you want to see which one of those instructions that your PLC supports, then you need to get the instruction manual for that PLC, right? Everybody understand that? Now that's one of the things that you do when you set up a new project. The first thing you do when you set up a new project is what? First thing you do, every time you set up a new project, what's the first thing you have to do? You have to select the PLC. Now, what's that telling RS Logix 500? It's telling the RS Logix 500 what instructions to do what? To pull in. So you'll go up in here in the tree and you'll go to this, and some of these things are going to be grayed out or they're going to be blank. It just means they're what? They're not supported by that PLC. And also it tells RS Logix 500 how to compile your program over for the PLC, the processor that's in the PLC that you're using. So it's pretty important. If you choose the wrong PLC, and then you come up here and write your whole program, and then you come up and try to download it, it's going to say, hey, it feels like you screwed up, right? It's going to say your PLC don't respond because your PLC's. So here we got right here. This is what it takes up. It takes up 3 words inside of R6. It takes up the enable, the done, the error. This guy right here is very important. What's the UF? Unload this. The word 1 gives us the size of the array. How many words are we going to go through? Or how many bits we're going to go through. So if I specify 32 bits, it's going to automatically use how many words? 2 words. But I can specify any length here. So we can actually shift through more than 1 word. Well, how does it do that? Well, once it shifts through 1 word, it automatically increments the index register and goes to the what? The next word, the next word, the next word. So we can go through a ton of words using this. So this is the actual out of the RS Logix 500 book. So here's our flag. What does the E give for us? Tells us it's what? Negative. The D tells us it's what? Done. So if I do a 32-bit shift, as soon as I do the 30-second bit, it comes up and says what? Done. An arrow indicates what? We entered a negative number. Right? You understand that? So if I come up here and I'm going to say I'm going to shift a negative number, then that's going to be a problem. And this guy right here, this is the unload bit. This holds the bit that is shifted out after the length of the ridge. After the length of the ridge.
Hey, Rick, what would you use this in the field?
Huh? We could use this guy to sequence start motors. So if I wanted to start a motor every 15 seconds, then what we could do is we could start off with 0. And then I could do what? I could shift the 1 in. And this would start my other motor, right? You understand? And then I could do what? Then I could shift another 1 in. And this would automatically move over. Then I could shift another 1 in. And this would automatically move over. And then I can shift another 1 in. And this would automatically move over. So what we're doing is we're starting off with one thing, and then we're shifting, right? Everybody understand that? Okay. The example the book lose, you get out there and you see all these signs all the time. They do the flashing lights, you know, and it automatically scrolls through the lights. Well, we could do that. So I could start off with a 1. I could shift a 1 in, and then I could shift a 0 in, and then the 1 would do what? Move over. And I shift a 0 in, and then I could shift another 0 in, and I could shift another 0 in. And what would happen is this 1 would just move from what? All the way over. But we could use them to sequence start motors, which is used a lot. These are some of the programs that I wrote for RS Logix. I know it's almost time to go then. Oops, they're not in this one. This is the textbook. Here's the. So I'm going to come up here and just download this, and I'm going to run it. And this is what I'm doing right here is I'm sending this out to an output port. Can you see what it's doing? And this is doing it once. By the way, what am I using for my timing? So back there in Introduction to PLCs, we could cross couple timers, right? You understand? And what we did, we used the timer timing bit and did what? Switched them back and forth and back and forth. You don't have to do that. I'm coming up here and I'm using this register right here. I'm using the free running register right here. And I'm using bit 5. So S word 4 / bit 5. So I'm using this bit right here. And you can see every time it comes 1, this guy right here does what? Energizes every time it comes what? 0, it energizes for me. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up timing, I'm letting the PLC do it for me. So instead of me coming up trying to say, okay, I'm going to cross couple these timers, then the PLC's got this free running clock in there. And I can just pick what bit I want to use. If I want it, the slower I want it, the further I move up in these bits, the faster I want it, I use this bit right here. This bit right here would be extremely fast, right? And when you look up S4, inside the manual, they tell you exactly the timing on each one of these bits. If you want it to be ever 800 and something milliseconds, then you would use a watt and use one of these bits. And that way you can flash lights and you can do things that we do out there all the time. You know, anytime you go into a plant and they have something running, odds are they got a watt. They got a light flashing up there. Well, but before what we would do is we'd come up and we'd do what? We would do what? Yeah.
So I'll show you on my program on my, that I wrote to open the doors. You're supposed to flash lights. Well, instead of me cross-coupling those timers, I just did one. I just used one of the bits here. And these guys are really, you can actually see it happen. So you can see it shifting through here. I'm shifting a 1, a 0 through. But what it's automatically doing is just automatically doing what it's done. And then I'm out and putting this to a 16-bit port. What I'll show you Thursday is we'll output to a 32-bit port, and it'll automatically go from where? It'll automatically go from here to over there. So we can do 16-bit words, we can do 32-bit words, we can do 64-bit words if I wanted to, just by specifying the link. Now, how does it do that? Well, that index register automatically takes us what? To the next word. So index addressing is really powerful as far as going through tables, your shifts. This is what we call a rotate. And I'll show you how we can do a rotate and actually bring bits. What we're doing is we're coming through the unload bit. So I'm taking that unload bit and then bringing it back in into the net. Hey guys. Y'all good? I'll see Tara and Milton tomorrow. There's letting for some.
Can I come tomorrow to DLC Lab at 2:30 for a couple hours?
Here, I'll bring another deal.
Okay, tell me that. Should I just look and then or just
She said she would come by and unlock it when she
whenever
got
I
it.
need to? Okay.
I'll go down there and unlock it now if y'all want to work on lab.
I was going to, but I can't now, and so that's
Anybody
why
want to work on lab this afternoon?
I'm gonna come in the morning. I just can't pick the day. That was my plan initially, and then things changed when I went on lunch. But I need to put some time in on my own. Oh, by the way, I didn't get you back your test.
That's okay. I'll give out another one.
Yes, I want 10:30. Yeah, because I have to be on Birmingham campus at 2, so give me 2 or 3 hours, and then I'll head that way.